The silence was deafening as Maya Chen stood alone at the training facility. 20 pairs of eyes burned into her back, their judgment as palpable as the weight of failure pressing down on her shoulders. She was the last candidate standing in the final Black Ops qualification course, and the only woman who hadn't been eliminated yet. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. Remember Chen. Commander Victor Reynolds' voice boomed across the facility, deliberately loud enough for everyone to hear. 5 objectives, 10 minutes. That's the standard. He paused, his lips curling into a smirk. Though I'm beginning to wonder why we're even wasting resources. Everyone knows women don't have what it takes for this kind of work. Snickers rippled through the line of male candidates behind her. Maya's cheeks burned, but she kept her eyes forward, refusing to give them the satisfaction of seeing her wounded. This was the moment that would either break her spirit or ignite something far more powerful within her. The quiet data analyst at the National Security Agency was methodical at 8:45 a.m., just as Maya preferred it. She moved efficiently between workstations, analyzing threat patterns and compiling reports with practiced precision. Her movements were economical but unremarkable, just like her appearance. At 32, she wore her dark hair pulled back in a simple ponytail, minimal makeup, and clothes that seemed deliberately chosen to blend into the background. Nothing about her suggested anything beyond ordinary. "Morning, Maya," called Director Harrison, peering over his reading glasses. "Could you help the new team with that encryption data they've been struggling with? You know, the one with the Russian signatures?" Maya nodded with a polite smile. This was her life. Predictable, safe, invisible. Her colleagues saw her as reliable, but forgettable. The quiet one. They called her when they thought she couldn't hear. Sometimes they forgot she was even in the room during briefings. Every day followed the same rhythm. Up at 5 a.m. for a solitary run through the park, shower, protein breakfast, work at the agency, analyzing and decrypting data. Then home to her modest one-bedroom apartment, where her aging shepherd Luna waited. The apartment walls were lined with bookshelves, tactical operations, cryptography, and foreign policy texts hidden among fiction and biography. At night, after feeding Luna, Maya would sit by her window, watching news reports about rising terrorist threats across Europe. She paid particular attention to stories about covert operations, leaning forward whenever footage appeared of suspected intelligence officers in plain clothes. Her eyes followed their movements with unusual intensity, her fingers sometimes mimicking encryption patterns unconsciously. No one at the NSA knew about the application form she'd filled out 3 months ago, or about the preliminary physical tests she'd been taking on her days off. No one knew about the combat training membership card tucked into her wallet next to her agency ID. "You applied to what?" Her co-worker Jessie had exclaimed when Maya finally mentioned the Black Ops training program 2 days before it began. "But you're so quiet, so normal. I mean, isn't that for, hardened field agents and special forces types?" Maya had merely shrugged. "I guess we'll find out." That night, after Jessie's reaction, Maya sat on the edge of her bed, sliding a wooden box from beneath the bed frame. Inside, wrapped in soft cloth, lay a tarnished metal object she hadn't looked at in years. Her fingers traced the surface as memories threatened to surface. Memories she'd spent years pushing down. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. Tomorrow would be the first day of Special Operations selection. And for the first time in 7 years, Maya Chen would have to reckon with who she really was. The nightmares had started again. Maya woke gasping, the sheets damp with sweat. The echo of explosions still ringing in her ears. The digital clock read 3:17 a.m., almost the exact time it had happened 7 years ago. She didn't try to go back to sleep. Instead, she made coffee and sat at her small kitchen table, allowing herself to remember what she'd spent years trying to forget. Before she was Maya Chen, quiet data analyst, she had been Agent Spectre, one of the most lethal operatives in a classified program known only to a handful of people with the highest security clearance. Her call sign within the ultra-secret unit was Shadow 7, the seventh operative in a team of 9 ghosts who officially didn't exist. Her infiltration skills had broken records previously held by veterans with decades of experience. Her ability to extract intelligence under extreme pressure had become legend among the few who knew of her existence. But few knew this history. She had carefully erased that part of her life after Bucharest. The mission had started like many others. Intelligence had identified a compound where a terrorist cell was preparing a biological weapon. Maya's team, her family for the past 4 years, was sent in for reconnaissance and possible neutralization. The plan was clean, practiced, perfect. Marcus would lead the first infiltration team, while Maya provided tactical oversight from a secure location with her encrypted communications array. The operation had gone smoothly at first. Maya had disabled 2 security systems without raising an alarm. The team had successfully entered the compound and located the lab. Then everything went wrong. Their intelligence had missed a crucial detail, a hidden backup security system beneath the compound connected to a deadman switch. "We're compromised. Heavy resistance." Marcus's voice had crackled through her comms. "Maya, we need exit vectors on the north wall." She had repositioned instantly, rerouting escape paths and disabling security measures with deadly precision as her team tried to evacuate. One by one, she cleared paths for her teammates to escape the rapidly deteriorating situation. 6 successful extractions under her protection. But Marcus had been the last one out, ensuring everyone else made it to safety. She still remembered watching through the surveillance feed as he took fire while covering the final team member's escape. "Marcus is hit." The frantic call had come over the radio. "We need immediate evac." Maya had abandoned her position, racing to the extraction point where Marcus lay, bleeding heavily from a chest wound. His eyes had found hers as the medical team worked frantically. "You got them all out," he'd whispered, his voice growing fainter. "That's what matters. Maya, promise me." "Save your strength," she'd insisted, gripping his hand. "You're gonna be fine." But they both knew it was a lie. With his last breaths, Marcus had made her promise. "Don't let fear stop you from doing what you're right. You were born for this work, protecting people. Don't waste it." Marcus died on the helicopter. Maya received a classified commendation for her actions that day, for saving 6 teammates through extraordinary skill and tactical precision. But the commendation meant nothing. She'd failed to save the person who mattered most. The trauma and survivor's guilt had been overwhelming. Maya had requested reassignment, changed departments, and buried herself in anonymity. No more field work, no more responsibility for others' lives. No more chance of failure when people counted on her. Data analysis became her sanctuary, a place where mistakes cost nothing more than computational time. For years, this self-imposed exile had been enough, until 3 months ago, when Deputy Director Vaughn, her former handler, had somehow tracked her down. "The world needs people with your skills, Chen," he'd said over coffee she hadn't wanted to share. "Particularly now. There's a new threat on the horizon. Bioterrorists with unprecedented technological sophistication. Sound familiar?" Maya had recognized the description immediately. The same network that had been operating in Bucharest. The ones responsible for the intelligence failure that had cost Marcus his life had expanded their operations globally. "I'm not that person anymore," she told Vaughn firmly. "The training program starts next month." He'd replied, sliding a Black Ops application across the table before walking away. "Marcus would want you to be who you really are." Maya had intended to throw the application away. Instead, she'd found herself filling it out that same night, carefully omitting her classified background. She wanted no special treatment, no shortcuts. If she was going to do this, she would prove herself from scratch. The Black Ops training facility looked nothing like the sterile corridors of the NSA, stark concrete buildings, advanced security systems, and an atmosphere of intensity that Maya had almost forgotten. On the first day, she stood among 30 candidates, 27 men and 3 women, as Commander Victor Reynolds paced before them like a predator sizing up prey. "Look to your left, look to your right," he barked. 80% of you won't make it through this program. We're not here to fill diversity quotas or make anyone feel included. This unit is about excellence under pressure. Period." His eyes lingered deliberately on Maya and the other women as he spoke. "Some of you might be wondering if you've made a mistake coming here. Trust me, I'm wondering the same thing. The message was clear from day one. Women weren't welcome. But Maya had faced worse prejudice in her previous life. She kept her head down and focused on the tasks at hand, completing the initial fitness tests with scores that placed her in the middle of the pack, deliberately holding back to avoid drawing attention. By the end of the first week, one female candidate had dropped out after sustaining an injury on the obstacle course. The other was struggling visibly with the psychological pressure. Maya maintained her position in the middle, never excelling but never failing. Then came the team assignments for tactical exercises. Commander Reynolds smiled thinly as he announced, "Chen, you'll be with Foster's team." Jason Foster was the star recruit, tall, muscular, former Navy SEAL, and, as Maya quickly learned, Reynolds' protege. He was also openly hostile to her presence from the moment she joined his 5-man team. "Try not to slow us down too much, analyst girl," he said during their first briefing. "Maybe you can alphabetize our gear while the men handle the entry." Maya said nothing, but her silence only seemed to encourage him. The tactical exercise that day involved infiltrating a mock facility and retrieving a flash drive containing sensitive data. Maya had done this hundreds of times in her previous life, but she forced herself to follow rather than lead. Even so, when the team hesitated at a junction, she quietly suggested, "Left corridor might be better. Better surveillance blind spots." "Did I ask for your opinion?" Jason had sneered. "Stick to the plan. We're going right." The right corridor had exposed them to simulated surveillance from 3 directions. The exercise ended with the team detected and the objective unfulfilled. During the debrief, Jason spoke over her. "Chen hesitated at the entry point, throwing off our timing." It was a blatant lie, but Maya saw the satisfaction in Reynolds' eyes as he noted it down. "Hesitation gets people killed, Chen," he'd said. "Maybe reconsider if this is the right career path for you." The pattern continued for weeks. Her equipment would mysteriously disappear before exercises. Her name was accidentally left off briefing lists. In the cafeteria, tables would suddenly become full when she approached with a tray. The locker room became a particular kind of hell. One morning, Maya found her uniform slashed with a knife. The word "quit" written on her locker in black marker. Another day, her communications gear was sabotaged. She began changing in the bathroom stalls to avoid confrontation. The worst came during infiltration training. Maya had been assigned a position at the far end of the mock facility, isolated from the others. On her 3rd day there, her access codes failed, locking her out of the system while others completed their objectives. "Pathetic, Chen," Reynolds had commented loudly. "Maybe you should stick to analyzing data." After the session, Maya examined the system and found the access codes had been deliberately changed. She fixed it in silence, said nothing, and returned the next day to complete the exercise perfectly, which earned her only suspicious glances and muttered accusations of cheating. Then came the viral video. During a rappelling exercise, Maya's equipment had been tampered with, causing her to slip and fall the last 6 feet to the ground. She'd managed to land in a proper breakfall, avoiding serious injury, but someone had recorded the moment and edited it to loop her fall repeatedly, adding cartoon sound effects. The video circulated through the program with the caption, "This is why women don't belong in Black Ops." Maya had seen the video on a colleague's phone, pretended not to notice, and continued with her training. But that night, alone in her apartment, she'd allowed herself 5 minutes of tears before straightening her spine and returning to her studies. 2 days later, when the final tests were approaching, Maya was summoned to Reynolds' office. His smile was all predatory satisfaction as he slid a form across his desk. "This is a voluntary withdrawal form," he explained. "Sign it and you leave with dignity. Refuse and tomorrow's tests will be particularly challenging for you. I'd hate to see you humiliate yourself publicly." Maya stared at the form, then back at Reynolds. "Is there a problem with my performance, sir?" "Let's not play games, Chen. You and I both know women don't have what it takes for this unit. You're not strong enough, not fast enough, and you certainly don't have the infiltration skills needed. I'm offering you a clean exit." I'll see you at tomorrow's qualification, sir, Maya replied, standing up without taking the form. Reynolds. Expression hardened. Your funeral, Chen. Just remember I gave you a chance. As she left his office, she overheard him on the phone. Foster, make sure Chen's system for tomorrow's qualification has the corrupted software installed. Let's see how good her technical skills really are. Maya's apartment had never felt smaller or emptier than it did that night. The weight of weeks of isolation and harassment crushed down on her as she sat on her couch, staring blankly at the wall. Luna nudged against her hand, but even the dog's affection couldn't pierce the fog of her despair. With trembling hands, she took her training uniform and threw it into the trash can. What had she been thinking? She wasn't an operative anymore. She wasn't the woman who had once saved an entire team through extraordinary skill and courage. She was just an analyst who had deluded herself into believing she could reclaim something that was long gone. The photo of her and Marcus taken in happier times before that final mission stared back at her from the side table. His smile, forever frozen in time, seemed to mock her now. She had failed him then, and she was failing his memory now. Tears streamed down her face as she picked up her phone and dialed a number she rarely called. Maya? Natasha's voice was surprised but warm. As the only other female member of her former unit, Natasha had understood Maya's struggles better than anyone. It's been months. Are you okay? I can't do this, Maya sobbed, the words pouring out. They're right. I don't belong there. I'm not strong enough anymore. I've lost whatever made me good at this. Slow down. Natasha's voice was steady, grounding. What's happening? Maya explained everything. The Black Ops training, the sabotage, the isolation, and tomorrow's final test that she knew was rigged for her to fail. So quit, Natasha said simply when Maya finished. What? The response caught Maya off guard. If you truly believe you don't belong there, then quit. Go back to your safe, quiet life at the NSA. Forget about Marcus. Forget about all the lives you could save with your skills. Forget about all the women who might follow in your footsteps if you succeed. The harsh words stung, but Maya recognized the strategy. Natasha had always known how to cut through her self-pity. You remember Belgrade? Natasha continued. When you were locked out of the system with just 5 minutes left, everyone thought the mission was blown. But you rewrote the encryption protocol on the fly. Maya closed her eyes, remembering 15 firewalls bypassed in 4 minutes. Each one cracked while under extreme time pressure. They've been loading the dice against you from day one, Natasha said. And you're still standing. That's not luck, Maya. That's who you are. Maya's gaze drifted to Marcus's photo again, to his confident smile and the words he'd scrawled on the back. Fear is temporary. Regret is forever. Her phone buzzed with an incoming text. Unknown number. They corrupted your system for tomorrow. Terminal number 457 has modified security protocols. Check your email. Maya frowned, opening her email to find a message from someone identified only as Wright, with an attachment showing the system assignments for tomorrow's test. Next to her name was indeed terminal number 457 with a note, modified security protocols, guaranteed failure. They're cheating, Maya whispered. Of course they are, Natasha replied. They're afraid of you. The question is, what are you going to do about it? Something shifted in Maya's chest, a familiar feeling she hadn't experienced in years. Not quite anger, not quite determination, but a cold, focused clarity. She stood up, wiping away her tears, and walked to her closet. From the highest shelf, she pulled down a locked case she hadn't opened since moving to her current position. Inside was her old field kit, the same advanced hacking tools she would need tomorrow. I'm going to crack every system they put in front of me, Maya said, her voice steady now. Just like Belgrade. Through the night, Maya worked methodically, practicing bypassing security measures to rebuild muscle memory, setting up makeshift encrypted systems in her living room using household electronics. Hours passed, as she reacquainted herself with the weight of responsibility, the rhythm of focused concentration, the perfect moment of breaching security. By morning, her eyes were red-rimmed from lack of sleep, but her mind was sharp. This wasn't about proving herself anymore. It wasn't even about Marcus. This was about justice, not just for herself, but for every woman who would come after her. "They want an analyst," she murmured to Luna as she prepared to leave. "Let's show them what kind of systems I can really break." The training facility buzzed with tension as the final qualification test began. 20 candidates remained from the original 30. Maya still the only woman among them. Commander Reynolds stood with a tablet, his face impassive as he explained the parameters. 5 encrypted systems, 10 minutes. Standard Black Ops qualification. Fail even one, you're out. The systems were advanced encryption protocols mounted on high-security terminals that would simulate the chaos of real-world infiltrations. A test designed to separate those with natural talent from those who had simply memorized procedures. Under normal circumstances, it was challenging but fair. Today, Maya knew the deck was stacked against her. Jason Foster went first. As expected, his technique was textbook, his focus absolute. When the timer started, he worked with precision, breaking through 4 of the 5 systems within the 10-minute window. The 5th system remained locked, but still technically a passing score. 4 out of 5 was impressive enough to earn congratulatory nods from Reynolds and the other instructors. One by one, the candidates completed the test. Most cracked 3 systems. A few matched Jason's 4. None achieved a perfect score. Then, it was Maya's turn. As she stepped up to the terminal, she immediately recognized system number 457 waiting for her. The modified program with deliberately corrupted protocols. Jason sidled up beside her as she inspected the setup. "Just between us," he whispered. "If you crack even one system with that terminal, I'll be impressed. But we both know you won't. One failure, and you're gone." Maya said nothing as she checked the interface, feeling the resistance of the modified protocols. It would require nearly 3 times the normal skill to crack, enough to throw off anyone's approach, especially with time pressure. Commander Reynolds watched her with barely concealed satisfaction. "Clock starts when you initialize the system, Chen. Try not to embarrass yourself too badly." Maya took position, but instead of the standard hacking stance taught in the program, she shifted her posture and approach into something entirely different. A modified keystroke pattern rarely seen outside specialized intelligence units. A murmur rippled through the watching candidates. Someone whispered, "What kind of technique is that?" Maya tuned them out. She closed her eyes for 3 seconds, drawing a deep breath. In her mind, she wasn't at the training facility anymore, but back in that secure room in Belgrade, where every keystroke had meant life or death for her team. The timer started. Maya's eyes snapped open. Her first sequence cracked through the leftmost system, breaking the encryption dead center in seconds. An infiltration so precise, it would have been impressive with a normal terminal, let alone one with sabotaged protocols. Without pausing, she targeted the second system as it regenerated new security layers. Another sequence. Another perfect breach. The third and fourth systems activated simultaneously in opposite directions. A deliberate attempt to force candidates to choose one over the other. Maya didn't choose. She split her attention, entering dual commands that broke the third system with a perfect sequence through the main firewall, then immediately pivoted and struck the fourth through its secondary vulnerability. 4 seconds had elapsed. 1 system remained. This final terminal moved through security protocols faster than the others in an erratic pattern specifically designed to be unpredictable. Maya recalibrated calmly, her breathing controlled as the seconds ticked by. 5 seconds. 6 seconds. The room had fallen completely silent. Even Reynolds stood frozen, his tablet forgotten at his side. 7 seconds. Maya executed her final sequence. The 5th encryption protocol collapsed precisely where the administrator credentials connected to the verification server. The exact vulnerability that top-tier intelligence operatives are trained to identify when immediate access is required. 8 seconds. All 5 systems breached. More precise than any performance during the day's qualifications, with a deliberately sabotaged terminal. For a long moment, nobody spoke. Then whispers erupted as the candidates processed what they had just witnessed. Commander Reynolds recovered first, his face flushing dark red. "That's impossible. Check her terminal." The tech supervisor inspected the system, examining the logs. "Sir, this terminal has modified protocols. The encryption difficulty is at least triple standard." Looking at the logs, she didn't just break in. She rewrote some of the security protocols on the fly. More murmurs from the group. Standard procedures couldn't account for this level of skill. "Beginner's luck," Reynolds snapped, though his voice lacked conviction. "Chen, I want to see you repeat that performance. Different test." He barked orders, and an instructor set up a new challenge. An unbreakable black box system would be activated, and Maya would have to extract data without triggering alerts. "This is ridiculous, sir," one of the instructors murmured. "Nobody can crack that system in under 15 minutes. "She cheated somehow," Reynolds insisted. "This will prove it." Maya stepped forward again, the same cold focus in her eyes. "Ready when you are, sir." The black box activated, its security measures rippling across the screen. Maya tracked the patterns, entered a series of commands, and the system's defenses seemed to dissolve, revealing the protected data in under 60 seconds. "Again," Reynolds demanded, his voice tight. "A second system, a second impossible infiltration. Perfect." The third time, Reynolds himself set up the challenge, a military-grade encrypted communication that even intelligence agencies struggled to break. Maya didn't even seem to analyze consciously. She simply executed a series of commands and the encryption fell apart, revealing the message. The room fell silent again, this time with a different quality. It wasn't confusion now, but awe. From the back of the group, a voice spoke up. "I think we should check Agent Chen's service record, sir." It was right, a quiet, serious candidate who kept to himself throughout training. Now he stepped forward, holding a tablet. "I took the liberty of running a background check after noticing some inconsistencies in Chen's application." Quote. He handed the tablet to a stunned Reynolds, who scanned the contents. His eyes widened. Shadow 7. Classified operations. Belgrade extraction. Bucharest incident. The ripple of whispers grew louder as candidates craned to see. "You lied on your application," Reynolds accused, finding solid ground again. "You deliberately concealed your intelligence background." "I didn't lie, sir," Maya replied evenly. "I simply didn't volunteer information that wasn't specifically requested. The application asked if I had law enforcement experience. I don't. It asked if I had completed standard intelligence training. I haven't. Mine was classified." "This is a mockery," Reynolds sputtered. "You've been playing us all along." "No, sir." Maya's voice remained calm. "I've been completing the training like everyone else, despite having my equipment sabotaged, my locker vandalized, and now my terminal tampered with. I wanted to earn my place fairly, not through special treatment. Isn't that what you said this unit is about? Excellence under pressure." The other candidates exchanged glances. Several nodded slowly. "This qualification isn't over," Reynolds declared, desperation in his voice. "One final test. Full tactical scenario with data extraction. Chen, you'll lead Team 2 against Foster's Team 1. It was a last-ditch effort to salvage his authority, to pit Maya against the protégé he'd been grooming for leadership." Maya simply nodded. "As you wish, sir." What followed was less a competition than a masterclass. Maya's team moved through the tactical course with precision that spoke of years of high-level training. She communicated with efficiency, positioned her teammates for optimal coverage, and executed infiltration techniques that weren't even in the program manual but were standard for classified operatives. Her team extracted the target data without triggering a single alarm. A perfect silent infiltration that left Jason's team struggling to explain how they'd been beaten so thoroughly. As the exercise concluded, the usually loud training facility had grown unnaturally quiet. Every candidate, every instructor, even Commander Reynolds, seemed to be processing a fundamental shift in their understanding. In the silence, Wright stepped forward again. "For what it's worth, sir, I served in intelligence operations too. Different unit, but we all heard about Shadow 7. the ghost who could breach any system, who never left a digital footprint. He turned to Maya with something like reverence. "It's an honor to train alongside you, Agent." The graduation ceremony was held in the agency's main conference room, a utilitarian space transformed by the rows of chairs and the podium bearing the organization's emblem. 20 candidates had begun the final testing phase. 17 had passed. Maya sat ramrod straight in her chair, her newly issued credentials pressed to perfection. She was no longer trying to blend in, no longer hunching her shoulders or averting her eyes. She sat like the decorated operative she was, her presence undeniable. Commander Reynolds approached the podium, his face a careful mask of professionalism. The events at the training facility had rocketed up the chain of command, leaving him in a precarious position. The agency couldn't afford the publicity nightmare of being exposed for systematic discrimination, especially against a decorated operative. "Today we welcome 17 new specialists to our elite unit," he began, his voice lacking its usual bravado. "Each has demonstrated the skills, judgment, and character necessary for this division." He worked through the names alphabetically, which meant Maya would be near the middle. When he reached her name, a momentary tightness crossed his face. "Agent Maya Chen," he announced, graduating first in her class with the highest aggregate scores in system infiltration, tactical planning, and operational security. A murmur ran through the room as agency officials processed this information. First in class. The only woman. Maya approached the podium to receive her credentials and official designation. As Reynolds handed her the documents, he leaned in slightly. "You made your point, Chen," he said quietly. "But this unit functions on trust and teamwork. Your deception regarding your background doesn't inspire either." Maya accepted the credentials, holding his gaze. "With respect, sir, my performance speaks for itself. I asked for no special treatment and received none. Quite the opposite, in fact. All I want is to do the job I was trained for." Reynolds had no response. For perhaps the first time in his career, the commander found himself outmaneuvered on every level. As Maya returned to her seat, Jason Foster intercepted her. His usual arrogance had given way to something more complex, a mixture of chagrin and reluctant respect. "I owe you an apology," he said, keeping his voice low. "What I did, what we all did, it was wrong. And what you did on those systems was the most incredible thing I've ever seen." Maya studied him, searching for mockery but finding none. "I don't need apologies, Foster. I need colleagues I can trust in the field. Can I trust you to have my back when it counts?" Jason nodded solemnly. "Yes, ma'am. Absolutely." "Then we're good." She extended her hand, and after a moment's hesitation he shook it. After the ceremony, as colleagues and candidates mingled, Reynolds approached her again, this time with the agency director beside him. "Agent Chen," the director began warmly, "your reputation precedes you. We're honored to have someone of your caliber join our team. I understand you've been offered a position as technical trainer as well as field operative." "I prefer field work, sir," Maya replied. "That's where I can make the most difference." The director nodded, impressed. "Reynolds, make sure Chen gets assigned to Alpha Team. We need her skills front and center." When they were alone again, Reynolds cleared his throat uncomfortably. "I was wrong about you, Chen. The agency needs operatives like you." Maya looked at him steadily. "No, sir. The agency needs the best operatives, regardless of who they are. Gender doesn't determine skill, commitment, or courage." Before he could respond, a young woman in a trainee uniform approached tentatively. "Excuse me, Agent Chen," she began. "I just wanted to say," she hesitated, then continued in a rush. "I almost dropped out of the program last month. They said women can't handle covert operations, that we should stick to analysis. But then I heard about you." Maya's expression softened. "What's your name?" "Trainee Rebecca Torres, ma'am. I want to apply for specialized training next year, but I'm scared." "What if I'm not good enough?" Maya reached into her pocket and pulled out a small object, a chess piece, a black queen. She'd carried it with her today as a personal reminder of her journey. "This belonged to a friend who believed in me when I didn't believe in myself," she said, pressing it into the trainee's hand. "He taught me that courage isn't about being fearless. It's about doing what's right despite your fear." Rebecca stared at the chess piece in wonder. "I can't take this." You can return it to me when you graduate specialized training, Maya said with a smile. Consider it a loan. As Maya walked out of the agency building that evening, the setting sun cast long shadows across the parking lot. Her new operational gear waited in the trunk of her car, her first mission scheduled for tomorrow morning. For the first time in 7 years, she felt whole again, reconnected to the person she was meant to be. A colleague who had caught wind of her unusual story approached, asking for a comment about being the first woman to top her class in the program's history. Maya considered the question carefully before answering. Sometimes the final keystroke is the only one that matters, she said simply. Everything else is just preparation. She drove home in the gathering darkness, Luna waiting at her apartment as always. But tonight, Maya didn't sit by the window watching news reports of others safeguarding national security. Tonight, she prepared her gear methodically, her movements precise and purposeful. Tomorrow, she would be the one answering the call. Not because she had something to prove, but because this was who she had always been. A protector, a guardian, a woman whose quiet strength had finally found its voice. 3 weeks later, Maya stood in a darkened operations center, surrounded by screens displaying security feeds from across a sprawling compound in Eastern Europe. The bioterrorist cell that had eluded authorities for years, the same network responsible for the Bucharest incident, had finally made a mistake. "Alpha Team, this is Shadow 7, she said into her comm, using her call sign for the first time since returning to active duty. I'm detecting movement on the eastern perimeter. 3 hostiles approaching your position. Copy that, Shadow 7, came Jason's voice, respectful and professional. Adjusting course now. On another screen, Maya could see Wright coordinating the extraction team, his movements efficient and precise. The mission was proceeding exactly according to plan. Her plan. Deputy Director Vaughn stood beside her, watching the operation unfold with quiet satisfaction. You were right, Maya admitted, eyes still on the screens. This is who I am. I never doubted it, Vaughn replied. Neither did Marcus. Maya's fingers flew across the keyboard, disabling another security system to clear the path for her team. He would have loved this operation. He would have been proud of you, Vaughn corrected, not just for returning to the field, but for changing the culture. Do you know we have 5 women in the next training class? The most ever. Maya allowed herself a small smile as she continued working. On another screen, she could see Commander Reynolds coordinating with local authorities, his earlier prejudice replaced by a grudging respect for her leadership. Movement in the main lab, she reported, focusing again on the mission. Thermal signatures indicate they're preparing to move the bioweapons. What's your call, Shadow 7? Jason asked through the comm. The entire operation waited on her decision. 6 years ago in Bucharest, she had hesitated at a critical moment. That hesitation had cost Marcus his life. Today, there was no hesitation, no doubt. Alpha Team, proceed to primary objective. Beta Team, secure the perimeter. I'll handle the security systems. As her fingers danced across the keyboard, breaking through layers of protection with an artist's precision, Maya felt a sense of clarity she hadn't experienced in years. This was her purpose. Not hiding in the shadows of anonymity, but using her extraordinary skills to protect others. The operation concluded 3 hours later with 0 casualties, 6 high-value targets captured, and the complete neutralization of the bioterrorist threat. As the teams returned to base, Maya received congratulations from across the agency. In her inbox, a message waited from trainee Torres. Started specialized training today. Keeping your queen safe until graduation. Maya smiled, closing her laptop. The nightmares that had haunted her since Bucharest hadn't returned in weeks. Perhaps they never would. Or perhaps they would always be there, a reminder of what she had lost and what she had found again. Either way, she was ready to face whatever came next. Not as the quiet analyst hiding from her true self. Not as the legendary Shadow 7 shrouded in mystery and whispers, but as Maya Chen, the woman who had found the courage to be exactly who she was meant to be, regardless of the obstacles placed in her path. As she left the operations center that night, a junior analyst asked her for advice on handling the pressure of such high-stakes work. Maya thought for a moment before responding. Remember that your greatest strength often lies dormant until challenged, she said. And when that moment comes, Don't be afraid to reveal who you truly are. That's when you discover what you're truly capable of. 6 months after her triumphant return to field operations, Maya Chen found herself in unfamiliar territory, being celebrated. The agency's quarterly performance reviews had just concluded, and her alpha team had shattered all previous efficiency metrics. Their success rate on critical missions stood at an unprecedented 97%, with 0 casualties and minimal collateral damage. "Your team is rewriting the operational handbook," Director Kaufman remarked as Maya stood before the executive committee. "The Chen method, they're calling it in the training division." Maya shifted uncomfortably under the praise. Despite her return to operational status, she still preferred the shadows to the spotlight. "It's a team effort, sir. Foster and Wright deserve equal credit for the execution." "Foster and Wright, follow your lead," Deputy Director Vaughn countered. "Your integration of technical expertise with tactical operations has created a new paradigm for the agency." Director Kaufman nodded in agreement, "Which brings us to why we've called you here today. We're establishing a new training division, Advanced Infiltration and Counter-Surveillance. We want you to lead it." Maya felt her heart sink. "With respect, sir, I'm needed in the field. My team will continue their exceptional work under Foster's leadership." Kaufman interrupted. "This isn't a desk job, Chen. This is about multiplying your impact. Training the next generation of operatives in your methodologies." "We're not asking you to stop taking missions," Vaughn added, "but the agency needs your expertise to be institutionalized, not just demonstrated. One Shadow 7 can accomplish remarkable things. Imagine what we could achieve with dozens." Maya's mind flashed to Rebecca Torres and the other women who had joined the program after her breakthrough. The chance to shape their training, to ensure they wouldn't face the same barriers she had. It was tempting. "I'll need complete autonomy over the curriculum," she said finally. "And I choose my own instructors." Kaufman smiled. "I expected nothing less. The facility is yours to design from the ground up. Whatever you need." As Maya left the meeting, her phone buzzed with a text from Jason Foster. "Heard the news. Congratulations, Professor Shadow. Don't worry. I won't let Alpha Team embarrass you." Their relationship had evolved over the past 6 months from reluctant respect to genuine friendship. Jason had proven himself not just skilled but adaptable, willing to learn from his mistakes and grow beyond his initial prejudices. Maya smiled as she texted back, "Just remember who taught you that reverse encryption sequence in Munich." She was still smiling as she entered the elevator, but her expression sobered as the doors closed. Training the next generation meant revisiting her own journey, all of it, including Bucharest. The memories she had finally made peace with would need to be transformed into teaching moments. "Ground floor," she told the elevator's voice recognition system. "Command not recognized," the system replied. "Security protocol activated." Maya's instincts instantly shifted to high alert. The elevator began descending past the ground floor, moving into the classified sublevels. Only 5 people in the agency had clearance to override elevator controls, and none would do so without warning. Her hand moved toward the concealed weapon at her hip as the elevator continued its descent to the lowest level, the Crisis Command Center. The doors opened to reveal not an ambush, but Deputy Director Vaughn standing alone in the dimly lit corridor. "Walk with me," he said without preamble. They moved through a series of security checkpoints, each requiring increasingly complex biometric verification. Maya had been in the Crisis Center before, but never this deep. They finally reached a sealed room marked simply, "Archival." Inside, a single workstation glowed in the darkness. On the screen, satellite imagery showed a familiar compound. One Maya recognized immediately, despite the years that had passed. "Bucharest," she whispered. Vaughn nodded grimly. "It's active again. New personnel, same operation. Our intelligence suggests they've moved beyond the prototype stage. The bioweapon is nearly operational." Maya felt a cold weight settle in her chest. "Why show me this now? Is this some kind of test before I take the training position?" "This isn't about your new role," Vaughn said, his expression grave. "This is about finishing what we started 7 years ago. The mission that cost Marcus his life wasn't a failure of intelligence, Chen. It was a betrayal. He tapped a key, and the screen changed to display a personnel file. Commander Victor Reynolds. Reynolds? Maya's shock was genuine. He was stationed in Asia during the Bucharest operation. Officially, yes, Vaughn confirmed. Unofficially, he was consulting with the Romanian intelligence service, specifically on biosecurity protocols for research facilities. The implications crashed through Maya's mind like a tidal wave. He gave them our infiltration playbook. He knew exactly how we would approach the compound. We've been gathering evidence for years, Vaughn continued. Financial transactions, encrypted communications, travel records under false identities. Last week we finally confirmed it beyond doubt. Why wasn't he arrested immediately? Maya demanded, anger rising in her throat. Because he's not working alone. Reynolds is part of a network inside multiple intelligence agencies. If we move on him now, the others will scatter. We need to identify his entire operation. And you're telling me this because… Maya let the question hang in the air, though she already suspected the answer. Because you're the only one who can get close enough to uncover the full network. Reynolds doesn't know we're onto him, but he does know you're taking over the training division, which he's scheduled to evaluate next month. Maya's mind was already racing ahead, analyzing angles and approaches. You want me to play the long game? Get him to trust me, reveal his associates. It's a deep cover assignment, unlike any you've done before, Vaughn acknowledged. And because of the stakes, it has to be your choice. You've earned your redemption, Chen. No one would blame you for walking away. Maya stared at the satellite image of the Bucharest facility, remembering Marcus's final words. Don't let fear stop you from doing what's right. When do we start? She asked. The next month passed in a blur of preparation. Publicly, Maya immersed herself in developing the new training division, designing cutting-edge facilities and recruiting instructors. Privately, she underwent intensive counterintelligence preparation, working with a small team handpicked by Vaughn to create her cover story. The official narrative was simple. Maya Chen, brilliant but ambitious, had realized that the path to advancement lay in administrative roles, not field operations. Her request to lead the training division wasn't about serving the agency, but serving herself, positioning for an eventual move to headquarters and policy work. Reynolds needs to believe you've been corrupted by ambition, Vaughn explained during one of their secure briefings. That you're willing to compromise principles for advancement. He'll be suspicious, Maya pointed out. Our history isn't exactly friendly. Use that, Vaughn advised. Let him think you're holding a grudge, looking for revenge through bureaucratic means. People believe what aligns with their preconceptions. On the day Reynolds arrived to evaluate the new training division, Maya was ready. She had transformed her usual efficient demeanor into something more calculated. Designer suit instead of tactical gear, stiletto heels instead of combat boots, hairstyled rather than simply pulled back. Commander Reynolds, she greeted him with practiced insincerity. Welcome to advanced infiltration and counter-surveillance. I trust you'll find our facilities adequate. Reynolds studied her with barely disguised contempt. Quite a step up from fieldwork, Chen. Corner office, administrative assistant, budget authority. You've done well for yourself. I learned from the best, she replied smoothly. Watching you taught me that real power in this agency doesn't come from field excellence. It comes from controlling who succeeds and who fails. A flicker of surprise crossed Reynolds' face before he masked it. Cynical perspective for the agency's new rising star. Realistic, Maya corrected, leading him through the training facilities. Excellence means nothing without the right connections. I'm simply playing the game more effectively now. As they toured the facility, Maya carefully dropped hints about her disillusionment with the agency's idealistic mission, her frustration with bureaucratic constraints, her willingness to bend rules for pragmatic outcomes. Each comment was calibrated to pique Reynolds' interest without triggering his suspicion. By the end of the day, she could see his assessment shifting. The woman he had tried to drive out of the program wasn't just surviving, she was thriving by adopting the very attitudes he embodied. I'm impressed, Chen, he admitted as they concluded the tour. You've created something substantial here. Though I question whether some of these technological approaches are cost-effective. That's why I was hoping to discuss them further, Maya suggested casually. Perhaps over dinner? The committee values your input, and I'd rather address any concerns before your formal report. Reynolds hesitated only briefly before accepting. The Riverview at 8? I hear their private dining rooms are excellent for sensitive discussions. Perfect, Maya smiled, knowing the first hook had been set. That night, in the dimly lit restaurant overlooking the river, Maya continued her performance, allowing Reynolds to believe he was mentoring her transformation from idealistic operative to pragmatic administrator. She listened attentively as he expounded on agency politics, nodding at his cynical assessments and laughing at the right moments. "You know, Chen," he said after his second scotch, "I may have misjudged you initially. You've adapted remarkably well to the realities of this business." "I had a wake-up call in Bucharest," she replied, watching his reaction carefully. "Losing Marcus showed me that the agency's noble mission statements mean nothing when operations go wrong. No one at the top takes responsibility. They just find scapegoats among the field operatives." Reynolds' expression remained neutral, but his fingers tightened almost imperceptibly around his glass. Bucharest was unfortunate. Perhaps if your team had followed standard protocols rather than improvising. Perhaps, Maya agreed, letting him believe she accepted this narrative. But it taught me to look out for myself first. The agency's interests and mine only align when it's convenient for both parties. A perspective more agents should adopt, Reynolds noted, studying her with new interest. "Have you considered where you want to be in 5 years, Chen?" "Headquarters," she answered promptly. "Policy and strategic planning. The people who decide where resources go, which operations receive priority." Reynolds nodded appreciatively. "Ambitious, though such positions require substantial political capital. Friends in the right places." "I'm working on that," Maya smiled, allowing a calculated vulnerability to show. "Though some connections are more valuable than others. People who understand how the game is really played." By the time they parted that evening, Maya had accomplished her first objective. Reynolds no longer saw her as an idealistic adversary but as a potential asset, someone whose ambition might make her useful to his network. Over the following weeks, she carefully nurtured this perception. She invited Reynolds to review specialized training protocols, solicited his input on instructor selections, and arranged seemingly coincidental meetings at agency functions. Each interaction built upon the foundation of their dinner conversation, creating an impression of growing alignment in their worldviews. 2 months into the operation, Reynolds made his first test move. "I have a candidate for your program," he mentioned, during one of their now regular lunch meetings. "Extremely talented, but his application was rejected on a technicality. Psychological evaluation flagged some concerns about his decision-making under pressure." "Psychological evaluations are often overly cautious," Maya remarked. "Send me his file. I'll see what I can do." The file arrived encrypted on a private server, already a protocol violation. The candidate, Thomas Reed, had indeed failed his psychological evaluation, showing disturbing tendencies toward excessive force and limited empathy. More concerning, his previous assignments had all been in Eastern Europe, with multiple deployments to Romania. Maya approved his admission to the training program, documenting her decision with carefully crafted justifications that seemed reasonable on the surface. Within her secure communications with Vaughn, she flagged Reed as a likely courier between Reynolds and his foreign contacts. Reynolds was pleased with her decision, and his trust visibly increased. He began inviting her to exclusive gatherings, small dinners with senior officials, weekend retreats with selected colleagues. At each event, Maya noted who attended, who spoke with whom, which conversations happened behind closed doors. 4 months into her undercover role, Reynolds finally made a significant move. After a strategy meeting that ran late, he lingered in her office, closing the door. "I've been impressed with your work, Chen," he began, "and with your perspective on how things should operate within the agency. There are others who share our viewpoint. People with influence who believe the agency's effectiveness is hampered by excessive oversight and outdated moral constraints." Maya maintained her composure, though her pulse quickened. This was the opening they had been waiting for. "I've suspected as much," she replied carefully. "Certain decisions from headquarters seem deliberately designed to undermine our operational capabilities." Reynolds nodded. satisfied with her response. Next Friday, there's a gathering at the Oakwood estate. Private, unofficial. People who understand the need for pragmatic approaches to national security. I'd like you to join us. I'd be honored, Maya said, allowing appropriate enthusiasm to color her voice. When she reported this development to Vaughn in their secure facility, his expression was grim but satisfied. The Oakwood estate belongs to former Defense Secretary Whitaker, he informed her. Long suspected of unauthorized information trading, but never enough evidence to pursue. If Reynolds is bringing you into their inner circle, we're closer than we've ever been to exposing the entire network. It's a significant risk, Maya acknowledged. These people aren't amateurs. They'll be watching for any sign I'm not genuine. Which is why we're giving you a choice, Vaughn said seriously. You've already done more than enough. We have Reed under surveillance, and Reynolds compromised on several fronts. Another operative could take it from here. Maya shook her head without hesitation. I started this. I'll finish it. The Oakwood estate was secluded and elegant, set on 30 acres of wooded land with its own security perimeter. As Maya's car passed through the gates, she mentally reviewed her preparation. The sophisticated listening devices concealed in her jewelry were undetectable by standard security sweeps. The tracking implant beneath her skin provided her location to Vaughn's team within 3 meters of accuracy. Reynolds met her at the entrance, unusually formal in an expensive suit. Some of these individuals are extremely private, he warned her. Discretion is paramount. Of course, Maya assured him, projecting confident ease despite the danger. Inside, she recognized faces from across the intelligence community. Senior officials from multiple agencies, retired military commanders, private security contractors with government connections. They mingled in small groups, conversations hushed and serious. Reynolds introduced her selectively, emphasizing her unique background and her new role training elite operatives. Maya has a refreshingly pragmatic approach to agency protocols. He explained to a gray-haired man Maya recognized as the former CIA Deputy Director of Operations. Throughout the evening, Maya absorbed information while maintaining her cover. She learned of operations being run without proper authorization, intelligence being selectively shared with private interests, resources being diverted from official channels. As the night progressed, the group moved to a secure conference room. Former Secretary Whitaker himself addressed the gathering, speaking in carefully coded language about parallel initiatives and independent security priorities. Maya recorded everything, knowing each word could potentially unravel the entire conspiracy. When Whitaker concluded, Reynolds stood. Many of you have heard about the renewed activity at the Bucharest facility. He announced, our Romanian associates have made significant progress on the project. Phase 3 testing begins next month, with projected completion by year's end. Maya kept her expression interested but neutral, despite the cold fury building inside her. The bioweapon that had been in development when Marcus died was still advancing, with Reynolds' active support. The containment parameters concern me, one attendee remarked. The potential for unintended spread has been addressed, Reynolds assured him. The delivery system is precisely targeted. Collateral exposure will be minimal and confined to the designated zones. Maya realized with horror that they weren't just developing a bioweapon, they were planning to use it. As the discussion continued, it became clear that designated zones referred to specific regions where destabilization would benefit their collective interests. When the meeting concluded, Reynolds appeared pleased with her participation. Your input was valuable, he told her, particularly your suggestions on infiltration countermeasures. The group is impressed. It's a remarkable assembly of talent, Maya replied, maintaining her role despite her disgust. I am honored to be included. This is just the beginning, Reynolds assured her. With your training program producing operatives loyal to our priorities, our capabilities will expand significantly. I've recommended you for deeper involvement. Maya smiled, though inside she was calculating how quickly Vaughn's team could move once she delivered the evidence. I look forward to it. As she prepared to leave, Reynolds added casually, Oh, and Chen, there's a briefing on the Bucharest project next week. Given your history there, Your perspective would be particularly valuable." Maya felt a chill run down her spine. This was either the final test of her loyalty or a trap already closing around her. "I'd be happy to contribute," she said smoothly. Later that night in the secure facility, Maya downloaded the evening's recordings for Vaughn's analysis. "This goes deeper than we imagined," Vaughn said grimly after reviewing the material. "Half the names in that room have direct access to classified intelligence across multiple agencies. They're planning to deploy the bioweapon," Maya emphasized. "We need to move now." "Agreed. But we need to be strategic," Vaughn cautioned. "If we move too quickly, some will escape the net. Reynolds has invited you deeper. We need to get the Bucharest details before we shut this down." Maya nodded, though unease gnawed at her. "The timing feels wrong. Reynolds mentioning Bucharest specifically, inviting me to the briefing. It's too convenient." "He might be testing your loyalty," Vaughn acknowledged. "Or he might genuinely value your expertise given your history there." "There's a third possibility," Maya said quietly. "He knows exactly who I am and what I'm doing. This could be a counterintelligence operation against us." Vaughn couldn't dismiss the concern. "We'll enhance your security protocols. If you feel compromised at any point, abort immediately." The week passed with excruciating slowness as Maya maintained her cover while helping Vaughn's team prepare for possible contingencies. When the day of the Bucharest briefing arrived, she approached the designated location, a private office in an unmarked building, with heightened awareness of every detail. Reynolds greeted her alone, his manner unchanged. "The others are running late," he explained, gesturing her to a seat. "We can review the preliminary materials while we wait." He placed a file before her. Photos of the Bucharest facility, schematics, security protocols. Maya examined them carefully, noting details that would be valuable to Vaughn's team while maintaining her role. "Impressive upgrades since our last operation there," she commented. "These biometric scanners would have given us trouble." Reynolds nodded. "Technology evolves. So must our approaches." He studied her for a long moment before adding, "You know, I've been wondering something, Chen. In all our conversations about Bucharest, you've never asked the obvious question." Maya met his gaze steadily. "Which is, how the facility knew exactly when and how your team would breach their security. How they were waiting for you with a perfect counter-strategy. How Marcus ended up dying because someone gave away your playbook." The trap was springing closed. Maya could feel it but maintained her composure. "I assumed it was an intelligence failure. Incomplete information, poor analysis." "A reasonable assumption." Reynolds agreed, unless you knew otherwise. He reached into his jacket, and Maya tensed, anticipating a weapon. Instead, he withdrew a small device, a signal jammer. As he activated it, Maya realized her communications with Vaughn's team had been severed. "Now we can speak freely," Reynolds said, his tone shifting to something colder. Shadow 7. Maya's mind raced, evaluating options and outcomes. Reynolds knew who she was and why she was here, but he hadn't moved against her yet, which meant he wanted something. "How long have you known?" she asked, voice steady despite the danger. Reynolds smiled thinly. "From the beginning." "You think we didn't anticipate Vaughn would send someone after me eventually? Your sudden interest in administrative advancement was too convenient. The question is why I allowed it to continue." Maya remained silent, letting him reveal more. "You're good, Chen. Better than most. The way you played me cultivated my trust, textbook deep cover work. But your fatal flaw has always been Marcus. The moment I mentioned Bucharest, your pulse changed. Micro-expressions, pupil dilation, things you can't control. If you knew, why bring me deeper? Why invite me to Oakwood?" Reynolds leaned forward. "Because I wanted to see how far you'd go. And because I have a proposition for you." He slid another file across the table. Maya opened it cautiously. Inside were documents detailing a decades-long operation, money trails, intelligence exchanges, political manipulations across multiple countries. "This is bigger than you imagined," Reynolds said. "It's not just me or a handful of rogue agents. It's a global realignment. Governments, corporations, intelligence agencies, all working toward a new world order. With you and your friends at the center," Maya said coldly. "With stability and strategic control at the center." Reynolds corrected. The old paradigms are failing. Democratic oversight, public accountability. These are luxuries we can no longer afford in an age of instant information and asymmetrical threats. So you're betraying everything the agency stands for in the name of some twisted version of security. I'm evolving beyond outdated constraints. Reynolds studied her with calculating eyes. And I think you could too, if you allowed yourself to see the bigger picture. I've seen enough, Maya replied. You betrayed Marcus. You betrayed all of us. Marcus was unfortunate. Collateral damage, Reynolds admitted without remorse, but necessary to establish our credibility with our Romanian partners. One life against thousands potentially saved through controlled application of the bioweapon technology. Controlled application? Maya couldn't hide her disgust. You're talking about selective genocide. I'm talking about precision targeting of destabilizing elements, terrorist cells, rogue regimes, threats that conventional methods can't eliminate without massive collateral damage. He tapped the file. Review the data. See the results we've already achieved. Maya flipped through the documents, her horror growing. They had already deployed prototype versions of the weapon in remote regions, disguised as natural disease outbreaks. You're monsters, she whispered. We're pragmatists, Reynolds corrected. And we want you to join us. Why would I ever consider that? Because you're already compromised. Your transmitters were detected the moment you entered this building. We've been feeding Vaughn's team carefully curated information. As far as they're concerned, you're turning, becoming exactly what you've been pretending to be. Maya felt cold dread spreading through her. They won't believe that. Won't they? We've altered communications, fabricated recordings. Your handler is already questioning your loyalty. Reynolds slid a tablet across the table. On the screen was a security feed showing Vaughn in a heated discussion with the director, gesturing at documents that apparently implicated Maya. This is happening right now, Reynolds explained. By tomorrow morning you'll be branded a traitor, unless you actually become one. You're asking me to betray everything I believe in. I'm offering you survival. And power. Real power to shape events, not just react to them. Reynolds, voice softened. You're exceptional, Chen. One of the best I've ever seen. Why waste that talent fighting for a system that's already obsolete? Maya stared at the tablet, watching Vaughn's apparent betrayal unfold. Everything she had worked for, sacrificed for, seemed to be crumbling before her eyes. I need time, she said finally. You have until morning, Reynolds replied, standing. I've arranged a safe house. You'll be monitored, of course, but you'll have privacy to review the files and make your decision. As they left the building, Maya felt her world tilting on its axis. The carefully constructed operation was collapsing around her, and for the first time in her career, she had no clear path forward. The safe house was a modern apartment in a high-security building. As soon as Reynolds left, Maya methodically searched for surveillance devices, finding them embedded in every room. No easy way to communicate with Vaughn. No way to explain that whatever he was seeing was fabricated. She was truly alone. Through the night, Maya studied the files Reynolds had given her. They painted a terrifying picture of coordinated manipulation across governments and intelligence agencies. The network was vast, with tentacles reaching into the highest levels of global power. If even half of it was true, Reynolds and his associates had been orchestrating world events for decades. By dawn, Maya had reached a decision. When Reynolds returned, she met him with composed determination. You've had time to consider, he said, studying her face for clues. I have, Maya confirmed. And I want in, but on my terms. Reynolds raised an eyebrow. You're hardly in a position to negotiate. I disagree. You need me more than I need you. My training program gives you access to the next generation of top operatives. My reputation legitimizes your operation to potential recruits. And my skills, well, you've seen what I can do. What exactly are you asking for? Full access, Maya stated firmly. No compartmentalization. I see everything. Understand the full scope of the operation. I won't work blind. Reynolds considered this. That level of access is reserved for the inner circle. Then put me in the inner circle, Maya challenged. You've been watching me for months. You know what I'm capable of. Use me properly, or don't use me at all. A slow smile spread across Reynolds' face. You continue to impress me, Chen. Very well. Full access. After you prove your commitment. How? Bucharest. The facility needs a security upgrade before final testing begins. Your expertise would be invaluable. Maya understood the test. Return to the place where Marcus died. Help secure the very facility developing the weapon that would fulfill Reynolds' twisted vision. The symbolic betrayal would be complete. When do we leave? She asked. Tonight, Reynolds replied, satisfaction evident in his voice. Welcome to the New World Order, Shadow 7. 12 hours later, Maya sat in a private jet crossing the Atlantic. Reynolds dozed in the seat across from her, confident in his victory. 2 security personnel, Reed and another operative from the training program, maintained a watchful presence. Maya gazed out the window, her face revealing nothing of the storm within. Everything had changed in the span of a day. Her career, her mission, her very identity, all seemingly compromised beyond repair. Yet in the midst of this chaos, a strange calm had settled over her. She thought of Marcus, of his final words. Don't let fear stop you from doing what's right. For years, she had interpreted this as a call to return to fieldwork, to use her skills for their intended purpose. Now she understood a deeper truth. Doing what was right sometimes meant standing alone against impossible odds. The Bucharest facility looked different in daylight. 7 years ago, she had only seen it through surveillance feeds and tactical maps. Now, as their convoy approached the main gates, Maya studied it with professional detachment, noting security measures and potential vulnerabilities. Impressive, isn't it? Reynolds remarked, misinterpreting her interest. State-of-the-art research facility disguised as a pharmaceutical company. The Romanian government provides protection, we provide results. Maya nodded, her mind cataloging every detail. The perimeter security has been upgraded significantly. Thermal sensors, motion detection, drone countermeasures. That's why you're here, Reynolds explained. The final testing phase requires absolute containment. One breach, one leak, and years of work are compromised. Inside, Maya was escorted through layers of security, each requiring more sophisticated clearance than the last. The inner sanctum housed the laboratory where the bioweapon was being developed. Through glass walls, she could see scientists in full containment suits working with equipment she didn't recognize. The delivery system is the true breakthrough, Reynolds explained with disturbing pride. Targeted genetic markers ensure the pathogen only affects specific population groups. Collateral exposure is minimized. Efficient, Maya commented neutrally, suppressing her revulsion. And the security protocols for the digital infrastructure? That's your department. Reynolds led her to a secure terminal room. You have 48 hours to identify and address any vulnerabilities before final testing begins. Maya began working, her fingers flying across the keyboard as she mapped the facility's digital architecture. Reynolds watched for a time, then left her under Reed's supervision. Don't get any ideas, Reed warned when they were alone. Every keystroke is monitored. I'm aware, Maya replied without looking up from her work. For hours, she analyzed security protocols, identifying weaknesses while appearing to strengthen them. Each modification contained subtle backdoors, invisible to casual inspection, but accessible with the right commands. She worked methodically, building a complete map of the facility's systems in her mind. On the second day, Reynolds brought visitors, 2 members of the inner circle from the Oakwood meeting. They observed her work with approval. She's everything you promised, Victor, one commented. The legendary Shadow 7, working for us instead of against us. Her insights have already enhanced our security posture significantly, Reynolds agreed. The final testing phase can proceed without concerns about external interference. That evening, Maya was invited to dinner with Reynolds and the facility's directors. As they discussed the project's implications with clinical detachment, she maintained her role, the converted operative, now aligned with their vision. A toast, Reynolds proposed, raising his glass. To Shadow 7, whose skills will help usher in a new era of strategic stability. Maya raised her glass, smiling with practiced warmth while calculating the final moves in her internal chess game. To new beginnings. Later, alone in her assigned quarters, Maya lay awake staring at the ceiling. Tomorrow, the facility would begin final testing of a weapon designed to selectively kill based on genetic markers. A weapon that could be deployed invisibly, its origins untraceable, its effects devastating. And she had helped secure the facility housing it. In the darkness, Maya finally allowed herself to feel the weight of her choices. She had come to Bucharest seeking justice for Marcus, but found herself entangled in something far larger and more terrifying. Reynolds and his network weren't just corrupted individuals. They represented a fundamental threat to humanity itself. The realization crystallized her purpose with sudden clarity. This wasn't about redemption anymore. It wasn't even about justice. It was about doing what was right, regardless of the cost. At precisely 2:17 a.m., the exact time Marcus had died 7 years earlier, Maya Chen made her decision. Moving silently through her quarters, she retrieved a small object concealed in the lining of her suitcase, a specialized device that had escaped detection during security screening. Not a weapon or transmitter, but something far more valuable. An autonomous infiltration module designed by her technical team before her mission went sideways. Working quickly but methodically, she connected it to her terminal and initiated a pre-configured sequence. As the module worked, Maya gathered her limited possessions, arranging them to suggest she was still sleeping if anyone checked the surveillance feeds. The module completed its task with a soft chime. Maya verified the results, then erased all traces of the connection. Everything was in place. She lay back down, closed her eyes, and waited for morning. Breakfast was served in the facility's executive dining room. Reynolds greeted her with the satisfaction of someone whose gambit had succeeded. The security protocols have been approved, he informed her. Final testing begins at noon. The inner circle will be observing remotely. I've prepared a comprehensive briefing on the enhancements, Maya replied professionally, though there are still a few minor adjustments I'd recommend before full implementation. You can discuss those with the technical team after breakfast, Reynolds agreed. Your dedication is commendable, Chen. I knew you'd see the larger picture eventually. It just needed the right perspective, Maya said, allowing a hint of ambition to color her tone. Will I be returning to the States after this? Or are there other facilities that need evaluation? That depends on today's test results, Reynolds replied. Success here opens doors to much larger opportunities. The morning passed in carefully choreographed activity. Maya met with technical teams, reviewed security protocols, and provided final recommendations, all while watching the clock tick inexorably toward noon. At 11:45, Reynolds summoned her to the observation deck overlooking the laboratory. Scientists were making final preparations, the bioweapon contained in a specialized chamber at the center of the room. History in the making, Reynolds commented as they watched. The culmination of decades of research and development. Impressive, Maya agreed, though I'm curious about the containment protocols during the actual deployment. The targeting mechanism is precise, but delivery systems always carry risks. Reynolds launched into a detailed explanation of deployment methodologies, completely unaware that Maya was no longer listening. Her attention had shifted to the small device in her pocket and the mental countdown in her head. 3 minutes until noon. 2 minutes. 1. At precisely 12 o'clock, every screen in the facility flickered simultaneously. Security alarms blared as systems began shutting down in cascading failure. Emergency containment protocols activated automatically, sealing the laboratory and research areas. What the hell is happening? Reynolds demanded, grabbing a phone that had suddenly gone dead. It appears to be a catastrophic security breach. Maya observed calmly. Perhaps a vulnerability we missed. Reynolds stared at her, realization dawning in his eyes. What did you do? What was right? Maya replied, dropping all pretense. Every piece of data about the bioweapon program is currently being transmitted to secure servers worldwide. The evidence against you and your network is now in the hands of multiple intelligence agencies, media outlets, and international oversight committees. Impossible, Reynolds hissed. The facility is completely isolated from external networks. It was, Maya agreed. Until I created the bridges you asked me to build. Every security enhancement contained a carefully designed backdoor. You wanted my expertise. You got it. Reynolds lunged for her, but Maya was already moving. Years of combat training took over as she deflected his attack, using his momentum to slam him against the wall. Security will be here in seconds, he growled. Security is rather busy at the moment, Maya informed him. The facility's systems are in complete disarray. Doors locking randomly, communications offline, confusion everywhere. A perfect storm of technical failures. Outside the observation deck, they could hear shouting and running footsteps as personnel tried to respond to multiple crises simultaneously. This changes nothing, Reynolds snarled. The network is too big, too powerful. You've exposed one facility, we have dozens. All of which are detailed in the files you so helpfully provided. Maya reminded him. Every name, every location, every operation, all now in the open. Your New World Order just became very public. The color drained from Reynolds' face as he grasped the magnitude of her betrayal. You've destroyed decades of work, endangered global stability. For what? Revenge for one man? Not revenge, Maya corrected him. Justice. For Marcus. For every life your precision targeting would have destroyed. For every principle you betrayed. The door to the observation deck burst open as Reed and two security personnel rushed in, weapons drawn. Sir, we need to evacuate, Reed urged. The containment systems are failing, and we're detecting multiple intrusions at the perimeter. Intrusions? Reynolds repeated. As if in answer, the distant sound of helicopters reached them, followed by the unmistakable noise of breach charges detonating at multiple entry points. Maya smiled. That would be the joint task force I activated before coming to Bucharest. Vaughn never doubted me. We anticipated your counterintelligence play from the beginning. Everything you saw, every leaked communication, was part of our operation. Reynolds lunged at her again, blind with rage. This time, Maya didn't hold back. A precise strike to his solar plexus doubled him over, followed by a textbook takedown that left him immobilized on the floor. Reed raised his weapon but hesitated, torn between loyalty to Reynolds and the rapidly deteriorating situation. Make your choice, Reed, Maya told him calmly, but make it quickly. In about 30 seconds this room will be filled with special operators who don't know you're not a threat. Reed lowered his weapon. What do you want? Secure Reynolds. Then evacuate the civilian personnel. The bioweapon needs to be properly contained. There are experts with the task force who can handle it safely. As Reed handcuffed Reynolds, Maya moved to the observation window. Below, she could see the tactical team entering the facility with precise, coordinated movements. Among them, she recognized Jason Foster leading one element, Wright another. Her phone, dormant for days, suddenly buzzed with an encrypted message. Shadow 7, this is Oversight. Status report? Maya smiled as she typed her response. Package secured. Network exposed. Awaiting extraction. The reply came immediately. Well done, Shadow 7. Come home. 6 weeks later, Maya Chen stood before the Joint Intelligence Committee, concluding her testimony about the conspiracy that had infiltrated multiple agencies. The investigation had led to dozens of arrests, the shutdown of illegal research facilities across 3 continents, and a fundamental reassessment of oversight mechanisms within the intelligence community. Agent Chen, the committee chair, said when she finished, "Your actions represent the highest traditions of service. You placed yourself at extraordinary risk to expose a threat that had eluded our best efforts for years. The committee extends its profound gratitude." Maya nodded acknowledgement, though the praise meant little to her. The true validation had come days earlier, at a small private ceremony where she'd been given Marcus's posthumous commendation for valor. His family had asked her to accept it on his behalf. As she left the hearing room, Vaughn waited in the corridor. "The director wants to see you," he said without preamble. "Something about a new assignment." "I'm taking some time off first," Maya replied. "I promised a young trainee I'd help with her specialized instruction." Vaughn smiled. "Rebecca Torres, she's doing well in the program, says she's holding something for you." "A chess piece," Maya confirmed. "A reminder that sometimes the most powerful moves come from the pieces others underestimate." Outside the building, the summer sun warmed her face as Maya contemplated her future. The network had been exposed but not completely dismantled. There would be more missions, more challenges, more moments when she would have to stand alone against overwhelming odds. But she would face them as she had always been meant to, not hiding in the shadows of self-doubt, not pretending to be less than she was, but embracing her full potential as both woman and warrior. At the agency training facility the following week, Maya watched as Rebecca Torres navigated a complex infiltration exercise. The young trainee moved with growing confidence, applying techniques Maya had helped her refine. "Time!" Maya called as Rebecca completed the course. 4 minutes, 17 seconds, new record. Rebecca beamed, catching her breath. "I remembered what you said about focusing on the objective, not the obstacles." "Good," Maya approved, "because the real obstacles aren't physical. They're the doubts others plant in your mind, the voices telling you that you don't belong, that you're not good." "Enough." "Like what happened to you," Rebecca observed. "How did you overcome it?" Maya considered the question carefully. "I stopped trying to prove myself to others and started proving myself to myself. Excellence isn't about external validation. It's about knowing who you are and what you're capable of, regardless of who believes in you." She glanced at the observation deck, where a new class of trainees watched the exercise. Among them were more women than the program had ever included before, inspired by stories of Shadow 7's exploits. "Your story changed things," Rebecca said, following her gaze. "Made people like me believe it was possible." "That's the real power of claiming your identity," Maya told her. "It's not just about you. It's about everyone who comes after you, who sees what's possible, because you refused to be less than who you are." As the next trainee prepared for the exercise, Maya felt a sense of completion she hadn't experienced since before Bucharest. The path forward was clear now. Not redemption or revenge, but purpose. The chance to shape a new generation who wouldn't have to hide their light or diminish their power. In her pocket, she carried Marcus's chess piece, a constant reminder of his final wisdom. Don't let fear stop you from doing what's right. You were born for this. Maya Chen, data analyst, field operative, Shadow 7, had finally embraced her true identity. Not as the quiet woman hiding in plain sight. Not as the legendary ghost whispered about in intelligence circles, but as herself, complicated, powerful, and unafraid to stand in the light of who she was meant to be. Up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.